popped a tire so he wouldn't drive home drunk and pretended it must have been an accident. So I'm not proud of this, but my drunk brain couldn't think of a better solution on the spot. So I'm at the VFW with my dad and sister, drinking with my dad. He gets pretty drunk, and I asked him when he wanted to get going, and he said that he'll be good in an hour to drive, and that he wants a sis and me to follow him. My sister is my DD since she doesn't drink, and she whispers to me that she's worried we won't be good in an hour. So we asked Dad to just take a ride with us since my sister lives with my parents, and we are just going back to the house. I tell him the car can wait and be picked up tomorrow. He refuses and says he will be fine. He's had a crap ton of shots and a good couple drinks, and alarm bells are going off to not let him drive. I love my dad, but he is so stubborn, so I know the only person who can convince him to not drive while buzzed or drunk is my mom. Because of this, my mom is the only one who drives him home from the VFW, but she's out of town for the next 2 weeks. So I'm like, oh shit, I need to get other people in on this. I go around asking people we know to get their opinions if he would be okay, and they all agree he isn't. I tell them I need their help to convince my dad to not drive. A couple people talk to him and mention, hey, you should let your daughter drive, and he laughs it off and says he's fine. It was frustrating. The only solution we were able to come up with was one person behind him and one person in front of him, but my gut is telling me to not let him drive. So I go out to my car because I was going to leave it at the VFW overnight and grab my knife and pop his tire. That was the only solution I could think of. End of the night, my dad gets in his car and is about to drive, and I go over and I'm like, oh no, you have a flat. He is like, we can drive to Sheets to get air in it. It took 2 dudes to convince him to not drive it because the tire was flat and he was in denial. He hops into my sister's car bitching about the flat. We all got home safe, but I told my sister I popped his tire and she called me immature and excessive. I believe it was excessive, but I didn't know what else to do and I was also drunk. I just didn't want to lose my dad to something I could have prevented. So was I wrong? I just want my dad to be safe, and I wish he would take it more seriously. Edit 2. A lot of people have been asking why didn't I just trick him into giving me his keys? And for those who have experience with drunk people know why, and thank you for saying so in the comments. For those who don't know, trying to take keys from a drunk person who thinks they are confident enough to drive is the equivalent of trying to take a ball away from a golden retriever, near impossible. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time this has happened. 7 years ago when he came to visit me when I lived in Florida, we got pretty drunk with my friends. At the end of the night, he tried to drive home drunk, which surprised me because this was the first time I've ever gotten drunk with my dad and thought he was smarter than that. It took me and 7 of my friends to take away his keys, which only happened because one of them was brave enough to tackle my dad and grab them. I had to call my mom and put her on the phone with my dad, and that was the only way he calmed down enough to take a taxi home. He didn't talk to me for 2 days because even after he sobered up, he was still convinced he would have been fine. So, I wasn't about to try that again the other night. Yes, I now realize he needs help. I've been away from home the last 4 years and came home in 2022. Since I've been home, there wasn't any indication he would be dumb enough to do something like that again. But now I realize my mom has been home majority of that time frame to probably keep him in check. Edit 3. VFW stands for Veterans of Foreign War and is a club for military vets and their spouses and family members. My mom is the veteran. Update. So I forgot that the VFW has security cameras, and although my intention was to replace the tires, I realized I had to replace them before my dad noticed that it was slashed. Things didn't work out as planned since we all woke up around the same time. My sister and I tried to ditch my dad before he had the chance to notice, but caught us. So we went to breakfast together, then went over to the VFW to grab our cars. He has a portable air compressor, so his plan was to just reinflate when we got there, but obviously that didn't work. He started cussing up a storm when he noticed that the tire was slashed, and my sister decided to take him back home. As fate would have it, he decided he didn't want to mess around with it and decided to nap. Which gave me enough time to go back to the car with a jack and take the tire off, run over to get a new tire and put it back on. My sister helped me throughout the entire process, and thank God she did because taking off the old tire was tough. Had to jump on the tire iron to loosen the bolts. Anyways, she drove the car home before my dad could wake up from his nap. He obviously was confused why I replaced the tire and just told him I wanted to help him out. He thanked me and said he would pay me back, but I don't plan on accepting it. I'm waiting for my mom to return from being out of town so we can all be together when I tell my dad the truth, and hopefully she will back me up. I just hope my dad doesn't decide to go through the security footage before she gets back. Update 2. So, my dad ended up going through the security footage and found out it was me. He wasn't mad as I thought he would have been, but I'm not sure how to respond. This is what he ended up texting me. I'm very shocked after I reviewed the video from Friday at the club. Now I know why you were so concerned with replacing my tire. What the hell? If you believe someone shouldn't drive, there would have been many other options. I had a gummy and only had a few drinks and a couple of shots over 5 hours. Normally that would just be me warming up. So I guess me having a great night. You assumed I was drunk. I have a very high tolerance, so I will put this event behind me. I'm not sure how to respond to this Picasso one. I know it was more than a few and he had 2 shots and 2 drinks within the last hour. 2. Him having a gummy and drunk probably won't do him any favors behind the wheel. And 3. I feel like I tried other options that night, but he thought he was fine. I'm tempted just to tell him that I won't pop another tire again as long as he doesn't argue with me when I ask him to have my sister and I take him home instead. However, I know he won't take this as seriously. Any ideas how to respond?